Hello and welcome to this week's Maker Meeting from Workshop 88. Each week we explore projects that our members are working on. We are members of a community makerspace primarily serving the western Chicago suburbs. We're always striving to build and grow our community of makers. We believe that we become better makers by learning with and sharing with others. We hope you enjoy watching our meeting and we invite you to become involved with us no matter where you live. And tonight, I think I'm going to start us off with some stuff. And the stuff that I'm going to start us off with is that thing back there. My arm. Yeah, that thing. There, that thing. All right. That thing back there is a new to us Tesla coil. And I have some pictures of it so that we don't have to keep looking at my guest bed. And so I'll bring these up and see if we can see them. All right. Tell me, you see that? Yeah, it's good. Okay. So there's the front. Let me tell you the backstory, the sort of the history of this. And I might change this. I don't know if that's bigger or smaller or whatever. Okay. So this actually happened over the summer. I was contacted. Well, I was contacted. I guess I reached out. I on a email list I belong to, which is for physics teachers mostly, or physics education related people. A message went out saying that, hey, there's somebody in the Chicago area roughly that has a Tesla coil that they're trying to get to some other person that could use it, and if it's too big to ship, so you kind of have to be in the Chicago area to pick it up. And if anyone is interested, reach out to this person. And so I contacted that person, and it turned out that the Tesla coil was homemade, hand built by the brother of the person that I was reaching out to, and the person who made it had recently passed away, not COVID related, but he had been I guess, audio engineer and electrical engineer of some sort. And he had worked for a long time running his own business out of primarily out of his home in the Milwaukee area, actually, where he wound his own coils basically for a whole bunch of different purposes, like transformers for all sorts of different companies. And he also had lots of, sort of hobby interest in building interesting things. And one of the things that he built was this Tesla coil. And the family said, like, it's taken over a year to clean out his house, and sort of, because they can't just finding the places for these things to go. It's not like you can call up a company and be like, hey, just take all the stuff. Because for instance, he had something like on the order of $9,000 worth of copper in his basement. And they're like, well, we can't just send that to Goodwill or whatever. Anyway, so they found they said, look, if you can use it and bring it back to life, then we'd love for you to have it. And we arranged to, for me to pick it up. And so my plan is, I guess, for us, Workshop 88, to get it like resuscitated. And then hopefully I can use it for demos with my students, and hopefully we can use it for demos at Workshop 88. So that's sort of the backstory and the potential future life for this thing. All right, so that's the front. There's the sort of top part. That long coil does separate from the outer one, and it's all wrapped on a piece of PVC. It's really, really well done. There's sort of a view of the two of them. But one of the things that,
quick question, maybe you're going to out to say what those two sockets are for.
Those two sockets, yeah. So that's the thing that we really need to work on, which these two sockets are for the tubes that this thing requires. It's not a solid state Tesla coil. This is a
vacuum tube Tesla coil.
Vacuum tube Tesla coil. Yeah. So this is kind of old school. And unfortunately, I don't know what the vacuum tubes are that we need to find. So that's what we need to figure out. But the leads that are coming off of here are, they're only so high, only so long, and so there's only a certain range of tubes that's going to like fit on there. Um, and I don't have any pictures looking down into it, but there looks like there seem to be 4 connectors on the bottom, and I think like there's 1 connector on the top. So there, I mean, um, I think that there's a finite number of possible tubes that would fit in this anyway. So, maybe we can look at some plans for vacuum tube Tesla coils and kind of figure it out. Let's see, what else can I say? Oh yeah, this is one of the pictures looking inside. I see this is a mess of capacitors that all seem to be soldered together in parallel, I think, to make a slightly larger capacitance, and then a couple other capacitors. This was, I think, just an extra coil of copper wiring of the same gauge as the winding. There's a better picture, I guess. And yeah, so you can see a couple transformers and that coil, and not there's not much to it on the inside. I don't know if I did. Yeah. Okay. So I unwound the power cord so we could look at it without that distracting us in the middle. But
The
yeah,
fuse is nice to see.
what's that?
The fact that there's a fuse built into it is a nice thing to see.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Safety?
Yeah. So I've never worked with vacuum tubes. I mean, well, I've never replaced vacuum tubes, I guess I should say. And so it'll be interesting, I guess, to figure out what needs to go in there and tracking them down if that's possible, and seeing where we can go from there. So this is, I think that's the, yeah, I got a couple. That's the last picture, but it's not that much different. So anyway, I think this will be an interesting project, and hoping that we can resuscitate it and have some fun with it, and then do some stuff with it. So I sort of yield to the resident Tesla coil expert.
Well, just a couple things. Say, I think that extra coil in the inside the cabinet there is probably, I'm gonna guess that's a ballast, an inductive ballast to limit current. And it looks like there's 2 transformers there. Maybe one is for, I know the vacuum tubes have to run on their own voltage, and I don't know much about vacuum tubes though. It does strike me as a little odd though that the secondary coil, the big, tall, skinny one, the secondary coil is has such a high aspect ratio. There's usually, I mean, this is something I've come across looking at different websites and whatnot about Tesla coils, that typically you want something like aspect ratio like 4:1, 5:1, 6:1. But that one looks so tall and skinny. I'm surprised. And if it works, it works. But it's just kind of surprising. But yeah, this is pretty exciting. I'm definitely willing to help out on restoring this.
Andrew?
Yeah.
Andrew,
Yeah.
are those, I saw some red wires kind of coming out the side. Do those look like plate caps? A female connector in the end of a wire that would fit on the top of a tube. I know what that looks like, and if you don't, I can't help.
The short answer is, I think yes. The longer answer is, I'm not familiar with that specifically, but yes, I think that what you're describing seems to be what it is.
So there are some little female connectors on the ends of those wires, and there's 2 of them.
Right. So I'll tell you what, I will stop sharing and see if I can show myself. See you, Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Um,
I was wondering, is the primary split? And does each tube and each transformer drive a separate primary coil?
that's an interesting question. I don't know. I'm going to take the secondary out.
That's what I was thinking, Scott.
And I do have the master tube substitution handbook in case.
Ooh.
Oop.
It's a little heavy, but I think I can do it. So, is this a good enough view for you, Jim, or not really?
Yeah, that's great. That certainly looks like a plate cap. So
Yeah.
typically that's the high voltage positive, to the plate, which is the anode of a tube.
Right. I can show you the there's four. There's four. Whoops. So that coil just fell out. I don't know if that means it's not important or whatever. Maybe it is. But there are 4 connectors to those tube sockets, I guess. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think it's gonna be fun, and I like the little gauges on the front. And anyway, so yep. So that's sort of I knew that I wouldn't have a lot to say about it tonight, but I thought that maybe just in general it'd be a good thing for us to work on in our copious amounts of spare time, right?
I can point you to some useful websites to do some calculations and whatnot. Some useful Tesla coil stuff.
So Scott, in your universal vacuum tube replacement thing, we've narrowed it down quite a bit by it being a bayonet base tube. And if there's only 4 connections, it's certainly going to be 2 for a filament, maybe 1 for a cathode, certainly 1 for a grid, and the plate is going to be the plate cap. So, it's a triode or tetrode.
Wait, it was with 4 base connections and a cap connection. Isn't that going to be a pentode?
Not if 2 of them go to the filament.
Oh, well, I have to decipher these Feynman diagrams. Well, you're pinned, Jim. No one can see my screen, Andrew. See
Yeah.
pinned?
Yeah, so if you can, I don't know what the organization of the book is, but if you can find something about the base type, because bayonet base vacuum tubes are quite rare. So
Can everyone see this, or is it just locked on Jim?
It's I can lock it on you. Now you're
There. So this is what I'm looking at inside. There's the book, but most of the book looks like this, and then illustrations, schematic illustrations of the bases. So we could try and find it, but I'm not seeing anything that sort of designates a socket or a cap connection. But then again, I haven't read this book cover to cover, so maybe there is. I'll continue to look. But also, I did a quick search as soon as you shared this, and if you look up vacuum tube Tesla coil, there are tons of schematics out there, and they're pretty consistent. They're not all identical, but I think if we looked at the components that are in the existing Tesla coil, we may be able to identify the same or a comparable schematic and get an idea of a tube that would service that.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. All right. I mean, I really appreciate. I think that I got as much out of this discussion as I was guessing that I could, and probably actually even more. So this is really good. I like it. Thank you. Should we move on? Scott's muted, but what
You
he's
sure?
saying is
I got
amazing.
distracted looking up vacuum tubes. I gotta put this away. Okay, I'll be present.
That's okay. It's all right. Very cool. Okay. So next on the agenda, my favorite topic for tonight, cocktail recipes for New Year's Eve.
You want to start us off, Andrew?
Well, I will say that I did not bring my recipe, although I'll talk about my recipe. And I didn't bring my recipe because when I searched for it, I realized I couldn't find it. Although I did find an email that I sent to my wife about 13 years ago, referencing some dessert that we could make with the cocktail that we also make. So it's been about 13 years since I made the thing that's on my mind. And that is a homemade version of Bailey's Irish Cream, which is, I just think it's a great thing to have on a cold winter's, night. Perfect for New Year's. And when we make it, we generally make a pitcher full of it, and it sits in the fridge for a couple weeks as we slowly drink it down. And so it boils down to a whiskey, Irish whiskey, some usually heavy cream, and it's usually a full can of sweetened condensed milk. So it's like super sweet. And I think we put in some like vanilla extract or something like that or whatever. But this is another thing that I did do the searching through my own files to look for it, and I couldn't find it, but I didn't do the Googling for it. And I'm sure that there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of recipes for the homemade Bailey's Irish Cream. And I just think it's a fun thing to do. I will say also, just as a side note, even though we're talking about New Year's Eve cocktails, this is something that we love this drink so much that we made it once for a summer barbecue, and just brought it out. And we're like, we don't care if this is a winter cocktail. We're gonna bring it and share it. And we had friends that were cool enough that they were like, yeah, whatever. If you like it, cool, fine, that's fine. So anyway, that's my drink. Pass it on to someone else.
Jim, do you have one?
No, nothing fun.
I was afraid to scoop you again.
You mean like you did with the anemometer?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, with the battery tester.
oh, that one too.
Oh, so. Well, we love a French 75. And I'm waiting for the recipe to come in. And I looked around online and I couldn't find a consistent one. But these days, if you order a French 75 out, odds are you're going to get a gin drink. But it was originally a cognac drink. It's cognac and champagne, simple syrup, and like a lemon zest or a lemon on the rim, if I'm remembering all the ingredients. And it's delicious. It's a really good drink. And because it's got the champagne in there, it's a very, very good choice for a New Year's Eve. So.
You said cognac and champagne?
Yeah, I believe those are the primary two ingredients.
That's okay. No, that's cool. That's a new one to me. I've not heard of that.
Well, it's
Yeah.
Isn't cognac the distilled product of champagne? If you take champagne, distill it, you get cognac. Is something like, I don't know, something like that. I mean, brandy comes from a distillation of wine, and I think cognac is a distillation of champagne, maybe.
Then it's a perfect match, better than gin. But the gin ones are good too. But just be aware, so if you see a French 75 on a menu somewhere, you may get a gin drink and not cognac drink.
Oh, and now we can segue into to my cocktail here, which is Boulevardier, which is a bourbon version of a gin drink. So again, it's instead of gin, it's something else. It's 1.5 ounces of bourbon or whiskey in general. I use bourbon. 1 ounce of sweet vermouth and 1 ounce of Campari and a twisted orange peel. I guess you could use a different garnish. You could probably do a twist of lemon peel or maybe a cherry. I like the orange. I think orange and bourbon combine well. But it's on the rocks glass. Fill the shaker full of ice and add the 3 ingredients together. Shake it for 20 seconds or whatever, and add the garnish. It's got a nice spicy character to it. The reason I like the orange is, for me, the aroma of the orange makes it taste sweet, even though it's not really all that sweet. And then there's the spices from the vermouth and stuff. I don't know. It's not too sweet, but not too bitter.
So your description of the 3 ingredients and how you're mixing them together, they really they remind me of one of Alton Brown's Good Eats shows from, I don't know, the original run, where he was talking about making cocktails, one of his cocktail shows, and he described making a cocktail is like it's like building a chord in music. And so you have this, like, the base, the root of the chord, and so that's your base ingredient, and then you're just adding layers on top of it. But if you think about it, like, most of the chords that are out there are in music are 3 or 4 notes total, right? And they're not these like 20 note amalgams of just smashing on a keyboard or whatever. And so it really got me thinking about all the classic cocktails that are out there and how they're assembled, and really, keeping it down to the right blend of the 3 or 4 ingredients is, I think, like, super key to getting what you're going for. So that's that's another drink I actually have never heard of. So I may check that out.
Yeah, I like bourbon and whiskey drinks. One of my go-to is an old fashioned. I really would like to figure out exactly what Ted's Montana Grill does for their version, the newly fashioned. It's pretty good. If you go to Ted's Montana, get a newly fashioned. It's good.
Thanks for the recommendation. Hey, do they sell them to go for COVID?
I don't know if they do it to go. It's a good question.
I will say that for for Mother's Day, I got Renee a margarita kit to go from Quibo in downtown Naperville, which is it's one of the it's from the family of restaurants that's based out of Geneva. Anyway, and so they sent home a bottle of tequila, a bottle of triple sec, they were strawberry margaritas. So they had this, like, blended strawberry syrup thing or whatever. And then they had their what they called their house mix. And we were so mad that, like, I mean, that was definitely something they had made up. And we think it was like orange juice and simple syrup mixed together is what we are thinking it was. But it was like, you followed their recipe and it was so good. And we were just like, wow. Like, and I don't know, like, we're not snobs about tequila or anything, so we don't really know or whatever. But it wasn't the spirits. It was it was all of the ingredients being mixed together in the right proportions, which
Right.
was really making it so good. And so anyway, I love like finding the restaurants that have done their own little twist on things, kind of like what you're talking about with
Yeah.
Ted's Montana.
Um,
And,
I'm going to do one more. I haven't had one of these in a while, but it's pretty simple. Just 2 parts Scotch, 1 part Amaretto on the rocks. It's called a Godfather. It's a nice combination, Scotch and Amaretto.
How dare you put something in Scott? Joey drinks those.
Well,
Those are
yeah,
good.
when I mix, I'm one of those people that if I'm mixing, I do not mix top shelf stuff.
Scott, I feel the same way about cognac, but I said nothing.
And it's funny that so I got the recipe, and it's Ina Garden's recipe that Joanne makes, and it's and she says use your finest champagne, and we both say no, you can even get away with prosecco. Like when you're making a cocktail with champagne, you don't use your finest champagne. Same thing's true. Yeah, those Godfathers are good. Around here, we drink a lot of Manhattans. It's also good. And Joanne makes something called the Black Manhattan, and I'm trying to figure out what she puts in it. And it does tend to make it more like a Boulevardier or something. It adds a bitter note. Not it isn't bitter. It just adds that sort of flavor or dimension. And I think it's Amaro, but I'm not sure. I'll find out, and I'll put that on our list of recipes too. So.
Oh, a few years ago, my wife and I we were in New Orleans. I had a conference there, and the cocktails, so good.
Did you have a Sazerac while you were there?
Yes, I did, and I did like it. It was pretty good. But one of my favorites thing was I can't remember the name of the place. I can look it up if you want to know and post it on Slack. But there's one bar. If you look at a tourist guide, I'm sure this bar will be in there. Anyway, I went there and I ordered a zombie, which is if you go to I don't know, just like a regular basic restaurant like Red Lobster or whatever, you ask for a zombie, they're just going to give you some rum and fruit juice. It's not a real real zombie. Interestingly, Chinese restaurants seem to make a good a zombie, but this place it was really good, and that's one of those. I'm really big on the importance of the garnish. So like a zombie, one of the garnish is a mint leaf, and the aroma of the mint leaf adds so much to the flavor of the drink.
Interesting. So I only asked about the Sazerac because I learned that it was a New Orleans original cocktail, and I'd never heard of it. And I was surprised last week. I saw advertised a local restaurant was advertising. I don't even remember which one, but a local restaurant was advertising Sazeracs that you could get there.
Okay.
And I'm like, wow, I've never seen that outside of outside New Orleans area.
I get them at Glen Prairie all the time. Love 'em.
Really?
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay.
You ever go to Glen Prairie?
No, huh?
It's on. It's well. It's
Roosevelt and Finley.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. It's funny. I like with COVID, I'm all about cooking from home, and yet I'm also like trying to find the local restaurants to support, the ones that I want to be there sort of after COVID. And so I'm always, and I don't know, I'm just interested in finding that balance. So
Yep.
Carl or Gail, any recipes you want to share?
No,
No?
I don't drink. Same, pretty much.
All right. Well, this is not, I'm going to segue a little bit, I guess. And this may be a future, we may do this on a future Tuesday. My wife and I'm going to give you the medium version of this story. Okay. It's not the short version. It's not the long version. It's the medium version. When my wife and I were first married, we always went back to Iowa to see our families for the holidays. And that always meant that we were in Iowa through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and usually before and a little after and whatever. And so inevitably we would like bring our presents to each other to Iowa to exchange, whatever. And there was one year where I unwrapped the present that my wife had given me, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, wow. Because she had given me a Roomba, okay, a robotic vacuum. And she was like, she was worried because she's like, she thought I was not reacting like I was happy or whatever. Like, you know, I was thinking like she had given me a vacuum cleaner and that was not cool or whatever. But really, I was stunned because I had given her a Roomba and she did not know it at the time. And so that was one year. And there was another year that we each got each other a Japanese handsaw, like the Japanese pull saw thing. And again, not discussing with each other or whatever. And I swear there's another thing that we exchanged the same thing. Well, this year, we each got each other a nitro coffee system, like a nitro cold brew coffee system. And so over the last 4-ish days, I've been experimenting with how to make nitro cold brew coffee. And the only system that we've started with is it's basically the whipped cream dispenser. And instead of filling it with cream and charging it with the nitrous oxide, it's coffee and you charge it with the nitrous. And the only thing I know for sure about is that you need some milk in there. Like there has to be some cream or milk or something, because I tried it with just the cold brew coffee, and it, you know, when I squeezed it and did the nitrous thing or whatever, it bubbled up and it was super foamy, but then it all, like, you know, all the nitrous went out of solution and it was just coffee, right? It doesn't retain the air like or it doesn't retain the gas like the milk does. And so I've been playing with that a little bit, and that's been kind of our afternoon coffee, has been the homemade nitrous or homemade nitro cold brew coffee. So I think there's a lot of like hacking that goes into that, because I definitely haven't figured out how to do it or whatever yet. Like the first thing I did was, since I had all the coffee in the canister, I put the milk in the glass and like poured or dispensed the coffee into the glass, which worked pretty well. Although the ratio of coffee to milk was not right. And then once that canister was empty, I filled it. It was sort of a 2 parts coffee to 1 part milk, but all inside the canister. And then I zapped it out, and it came out like kind of like whipped coffee and not at all like a drink. So yeah, anyway, that's another thing to come. And Renee said once we get it figured out, we can turn it into a Workshop 88 class on nitro cold brew coffee.
Have you seen any of the Big Clive videos on Willet SodaStream? He takes usually some sort of alcoholic beverage, and he puts it in there and adds the CO2 and sees how well it absorbs the CO2 and does it stay carbonated. He did Jägermeister. He's done a few others. Will it carbonate?
You know, I haven't seen him in a while. I love his teardown videos, and I watched. He got into the live streams, and they're a little long, but now you got me interested in going back and seeing those. And if you like a teardown video, he does a really good one.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that brings us actually to the next topic. Best and worst projects of 2020. I don't know where to put the nitro cold brew in terms of best to worst, because trust me, there are aspects of it that are definitely the worst, and there are aspects of it that are tending towards the best. So it's somewhere all over the place. But someone have a best or worst project of 2020 they want to share?
Anybody?
Sure, I'll go. My best and worst is the same project. It's my dual resonant solid state Tesla coil. I had started this quite some time ago, and then early this year, I made a lot of good progress on the mechanical build. Got all the electrical components soldered together, and so far, mechanically it's all put together. And then, well, it's this is they're a bit more complicated than just the static spark gap Tesla coil. And so of course it wasn't working initially, and so this is what made it the worst project of the year, was that when I got to the point of troubleshooting, well, it's 2020. It's been a crappy year. I just did not feel like I did do a little effort on the troubleshooting, but I very quickly lost interest in trying to. I know at least what area the problem is. It's the gate driver transformers. But exactly, fixing that problem and whatnot, I just didn't feel like doing it. So
It looks great though.
Yeah, that thing is beautiful.
I'm pretty happy with it. There's this little spot here on the second.
No, don't show us that.
But yeah, except for that, it turned out quite well. Yeah, I used the laser cutter at the space to cut these acrylic pieces to separate the primary coil, and yeah, it's just it turned out pretty well. Some of the stuff is like this. I got this blower here. That's from an over the stove hood range microwave, and so I'm using that to keep the IGBTs cool. And I think that's the only junk part I used. Everything else is purchased new. But and then there's one circuit board on here that was made at a board house. Then there were a couple boards I made. The couple boards I made for the gate driver transformers are home etched. But yeah, it's quite a bit of fun. It's nice at least seeing it put together finally. But and I'm happy that I did make some progress. I just need to get the troubleshooting done.
How did you form the primary?
Oh, yeah, I had made. This was something I had done before for. I wanted to wind a new secondary for my static spark gap Tesla coil, And so I have an Arduino that drives a stepper motor. I 3D printed a gear that interfaces with the stepper, and then that turns the PVC pipe around, and so it's semi-automated. You know, the winding is being controlled by the stepper and whatnot, and the Arduino also outputs the number of turns. So when I get to the end, I know how many turns of copper I have. But I am also holding the wire at the same time and sort of feeding it. So it's only semi-automatic, but that was very helpful. Makes it go by a lot faster and somewhat neater.
That's cool, and I let you finish because that was a project inside of a project. You know, the hallmark of a good yak shave, but
Yeah.
that would be the secondary, isn't it not? And I'm wondering how you got such perfect curvature to the primary, which is the copper tubing, right?
Oh, how did I make the primary? Okay. That was that's not that hard, really. The secondaries, reason I answered that one is because that's the one that takes so much work. The primary is actually not that difficult. So you buy the copper tubing from your local home improvement store, and since it comes in a box where it's already coiled up, and so as long as you don't uncoil it too much, you just slowly spread it out and
Oh,
yeah. So you just slowly spread it out and fit it into the little slots on your I don't even know what to call these things at the moment, but
coil forms.
yeah, coil forms, and just go around and slowly spread it out, bend it a little bit at a time, and work your way around. And that's part of the reason I have 8 of these going around, these supports. See, my first coil, I only had 4, and it didn't come out as nice and smooth as this one. So having 8 helped make it a little bit smoother in shape.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Hopefully telling us about your lack of motivation will have you wake up tomorrow with some newfound motivation.
Yeah, that's partly how I got into the weather balloon thing. Is that was an easy project and easier than troubleshooting the Tesla coil. So I wanted to do something to start doing anything, and so I ended up doing that.
So who else has best or worst projects from 2020?
I want to hear from Gail and Jim.
I don't have anything to say.
Or Carl.
I don't really have any finished projects, so I can't really comment on best or worst at this point.
All right, I will share. I'll share one that I'm going to put it under worst, only because well, I think I know the failure mode, but all right. So here, this is my Tinkercad account, and I may have shared this on a previous episode or meeting or whatever. This was the crayon holder that I was trying to make for my son to stash all of his crayons in a little square cube. And I whipped this up in Tinkercad, and I did not bother to measure the diameter of a crayon, because why would you when you can Google the diameter of a crayon? And that failed miserably. And I think I was also using really subprime filament, at the time, and so that did not bode well. And also, unlike others on this call who might instead of doing a 10 by 10 grid, they might do, I don't know, a 2 by 2 grid or a 1 by 1 grid. I said, I don't need to prototype this. I can just do the whole thing. And that was probably not a great idea. So needless to say, my son's crayons are still in a Ziploc baggie, basically, is what it boils down to.
I missed, were the holes too big or too small?
They were too small.
You
If
need
they,
to find some
if they
smaller.
were, yeah, if they were too big, I would have probably just glued everything together and then been like, here, make use of this until I can fix it or whatever. But yeah, so that goes under one of the worst projects of the year, biggest failures, let's just say. And then there's other things on here like, well, actually, this is another project for him. If it loads, he has a crane toy, a lot of construction toy things, and the crane came with a hook, but no wrecking ball. And he's like, "Hey, I need a wrecking ball," and I'm like, "Okay, what do you want me to do about that?" He's like, "Well, why don't you 3D print one?" And I'm like, "You're 5. Why are you suggesting this?" And he's like, but it turned out that yeah, if you just put a ball and a helix and you put them together and you print it at 100%, it it does good enough. And so this one actually turned out all right. The bottom is flattened slightly, so it stays on the build plate. But for something that I spent as much time on the crayon holder as I did on this, this one actually turned out very successful, and the crayon holder not so much. So those were good things. I learned a lot about the making we talked about rotating the geometries of things previously, but man, I learned a lot about that, and so that was kind of interesting on this project here. So I won't talk about that again, but I will say that like I mean, tonight sitting around me, I don't have a lot of stuff to like bring out and show, but over the last, especially the last like 3 months since we've been regularly doing these meetings, I've accomplished a lot more. Like, and so that's been a huge success in terms of like just getting personal projects going. I still have the shelf project for my closet that's still ongoing. I'm going to finish that soon, but it's been a huge success to realize the importance of like I need to make time for my hobbies and actually accomplish things, which like having lived through one global pandemic, I don't wish it on anyone, right? But if there's any bright spots to take away from it, is that I found ways to be able to actually at least try to accomplish the things that I want to try to accomplish, not work related, basically. So that's been a best project sort of aspect for me.
That's your silver lining.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Well, I suppose I would have to say that for me, one of the most successful projects was the was the LED heart Um, I didn't, where is it? I didn't prepare anything for this. But in COVID times, you know, we had walked around the neighborhood and there would be bears and stuff in people's windows and hearts, lots of them, in early COVID days. And so I wanted something to put in the window. And so I made a heart. So this is, I don't know, 40 inches tall or something like that. And, you know, just good old WS 2812 LED strip, you know, individually addressable. And of course, the thing is driven by an Arduino. And so it was an interesting build, you know, just trying to get this thing together. The strip bends pretty easily, but not in the direction that you would want to bend it to go around a heart. And so I did, this is an LED strip on its edge with this little rectangle being the LED. And that way, if the width of the thing is perpendicular to the plane of the heart, yeah, you can bend it around, but then the LEDs are pointing the wrong way. But if you put a mirror at an angle about like this, then the light ends up going, you know, mostly the right direction. And also I made up some mirrored strips of cardboard and shiny tape, and ended up, you know, this is really hard to look at. The green circles or ovals are LEDs. These blocks of wood are holding up the strip. So we're looking at the strip just along its edge. These things are cardboard, shiny tape reflectors. So all this stuff that looks like a regular LED strip is a reflection of the actual one, which we're just seeing the edge of. So that gets the light going in the right direction. And so I did some work on it, and you know, it's got some animations, and it slowly fades from one color to another. As I wanted to do development on it, I needed a development environment, and I didn't care. It didn't actually have to look quite as nice as the one that's hanging in the living room window. So there's a lot of development that's been done on this, you know, kind of clunky one. It was kind of interesting because I did hook up the place that it was sitting was not within wires reach. So I set up an Arduino with communication through an ESP01. Oh, I guess this is a D1 Mini on 8266. And that's pretty cool. You can actually do, you know, this thing comes up with a web server, and I could load code into the thing, and I had the console. And so that was a pretty useful thing. A part of it, of course, is that this thing needs to go on and off. And I had it on a timer for a while, but that's not great. And it was during the summer when sunrise and sunset were changing. And I ended up putting some kind of real-time clock on one of these things. And I found a sunrise and sunset library. And so now, and I picked, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes before or after sunrise, sunset. So it would turn itself off. So that's been pretty good. And Halloween, I did some other colors, and I don't know, it was some Christmas stuff. Anyway, it was a pretty interesting project, and pretty successful. The the scary part is, okay, now what are you going to do with it? You know, geez, you can't just throw it away. Yeah, I could strip the LEDs out, and we're actually coming along toward, you know, decision time. You know, when we've actually got some vaccine or something, and you don't have to have a, you know, thank you to frontline workers thing in your window anymore. So if anybody wants a big heart for something, and it comes complete with code and stuff like that. But this has been pretty successful. So that was, I'm pleased with this one.
Well, you're coming up on Valentine's Day, so you're gonna need to just use it for Valentine's Day, right?
Yeah, it'll, I'll take some of the animations and, swap in, pink and red or something. For Halloween, it was a heart and it was orange and it was beating. And there was some interesting code because I treated it in some of the animations as an XY plane. So I could fill it like from the bottom or from one side. And obviously doing stuff linearly, the LEDs are addressed just in order around the strip. But if you want to do something more interesting, like a side to side swipe or something, you have to mess with it. Somebody on Slack posted some guy that took a Christmas tree and did the same thing, ended up with a mapping of NeoPixel addresses to their XYZ coordinates. And he had like 500 LEDs, and he could, do spirals or anything he wanted because he could treat it like an XYZ canvas. And I only did that in 2 dimensions. It was a little interesting to get the actual coordinates of the LEDs. So there were some interesting challenges.
Yeah,
But,
no, I remember you. I remember you sharing that earlier. I didn't realize that there had been updates since because I think the last time that you shared it was or that I saw it was maybe back in I don't want to say like May or like really soon after you had first done it, but I don't remember the part where you put the mirrors up and did the things at an angle. That's really clever way to handle how it needs to rotate.
That's been since day 0, because there's it bends really nicely, but just the wrong way. And
right.
do I really want to put mirrors in front of all of these? And it worked out okay.
Well,
except the development heart. The development heart is just bent and it's on a piece of foam board or something. And so it kind of lights up the foam board, and it's good enough to see, kind of what's going on. And I, don't need no stinking mirrors for a development environment.
Right.
That was just aluminum tape that you on cardboard that you used for the mirrors?
Yeah, it was really pretty impressive. It was real good mirror.
I could see doing like a pumpkin shape for Halloween instead of the heart,
Or you could just leave the heart and make it come up orange.
No, you could do that, but someone
You
else
can make the pumpkin. Hey, that's cool.
that's what I'm saying. Like somebody else could do a pumpkin, right? But yes, you could leave your heart, and yes, very cool. Yeah, I may have to revisit that. Did you add the diffuser to the whole thing, or did you leave it?
No, that was an interesting whole part, because the plan was that it was going to be diffused. It was just going to be a soft glow, because the LEDs themselves are pretty harsh. And so I made a tissue paper diffuser. It's pretty cool. Looks, looked like just about what I wanted it to look like. I don't know if I got a picture. And I can find a screen share button. And this is kind of hard to see, but these are the individual LEDs, and this is just kind of a U-shaped and curved in 3D tissue paper shroud around it. And so this part is the glow that I was after. That was completely the plan. And my wife and I were just looking at it, propped up against the wall, trying to figure out what to do with it. And the LEDs they're brilliant. It's pretty, it's beautiful, bright, pretty lights. And the glow is pretty too. And so it just ended up 50-50. um, one side and to this day is, an interesting diffuser, and the other is just brilliant reflections of LEDs. So yeah, that was just strange, not completely not planned, but yeah,
Oh, I
that's how
love
it
it.
is.
That's great. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Are you going to share your worst project?
There weren't so many worst ones. Some of they end up pretty much successful. It's just that they take a lot longer to get there than the plan was. So
That's fair. Very cool. Scott, you got something for us?
I got a few things. So this here for now. There we go. I'll get to her in a minute. Maybe the poorest, they were successful projects, but maybe not the best timed projects. Was I brought in some nose flutes that you could 3D print and play at Workshop 88 right before the pandemic took off. So I'm glad no one got sick from those. And the project I was working on at the end of March was an arcade controller box, and it's still at Workshop 88. And that was a success, and I think we could have had a lot of fun with it. But having everyone again touch a bunch of controls in a non-socially distant setting, we couldn't have been a worse time project. So Venus de Milo there. This was the largest multi-part print that I did, and I got to practice some finishing techniques, some good, some not so good. It's kind of neat. I keep all my 3D printing projects in one folder so I could look through what I did this year. And they're too numerous to mention, and some are pretty banal, but it's nice, I had a very close friend some years ago who I lost before the 3D printing revolution came around. We were into robotics and stuff, and he helped me build my CNC machine. And you may have heard me mention him before. His name was Terry. And I just look at all of these little doodads and inventions and things we 3D printed, and man, he would have loved this stuff. Anyway, I had too many projects to mention, and like Jim, they take longer than expected, but they're generally successful. A couple of note that weren't successful were the acoustic metamaterial, which I think technically was 2019, and the big ear, and they both resulted in me having a better understanding of acoustics thanks to Andrew. So thank you. You got to catch me before I start these projects though. And the anemometer and the solder paste stencils, maybe we'll do a segment on those. Those were really fun recent projects, and fortunately we haven't been I don't want to say that we haven't been impacted by the virus, because our family and our friends have been impacted in some pretty significant ways. And I don't want to go into any detail there, but our day-to-day life hasn't, and we've remained healthy, and we've managed to to use some of that extra time to contribute to projects, and I'm really kind of grateful for that aspect of this time, if you're going to look back at any silver lining. So but I came away, I learned Qt, I worked with ESPs and Arduinos deeper than I've worked with before, learned many libraries, developed a lot of software. So all, a whole lot of big wins all the way around in the project department. Got a little deeper than I had anticipated, but.
Well, we're not going to forget about the acoustic metamaterials. We may revisit those at some point. I didn't. Carl mentioned that he has projects in process, right? And I think we all do, right? And some of those things that are still in process for me are like, they're very much in like the best of category for me, even though they're not done, right? And One of them for me is the acoustic, the transducer bass project that the ultrasonic basses that Scott, you were helping me with a lot. And
They're on my list.
well, it's funny because like I make fun of myself and sometimes other people for getting into the yak shaving aspect of projects or whatever. But like the ultrasonic basses that we were working on led me to discover that I had the issue with my own 3D printer, right? Which like I partially have fixed, but I haven't fully fixed it, you know. And so it's another thing that I'm learning more about maintenance and repair of the 3D printer. So that's a good thing. But even though that project like got a little bit sidelined or sidetracked, it's still something that was super important to me for this year, and looking forward to picking it back up again and getting back into it. And so I think that's gonna come up. You know, it's gonna come up soon, I think. So, but I totally appreciate what you're saying about just all those different aspects, you know. And it's been a I don't know. It's like I feel like March is gonna hit, and all of us are gonna be thinking about like last March and how lives changed and whatever. And um, I am trying to think about without being too cliche or whatever, but like what do I want to keep about this current life, and what do I want to you know, just get back to from pre-COVID era. And it's I don't know, it's a little early to say for sure, but I definitely appreciate that. You know, I've been more reflective of things over the last 10 months or so.
We certainly appreciate many things that we took for granted much more now.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very cool. Anybody? We'll go. Did you have something else?
I had one more comment, and that's that I've had a lot of little projects that have been fun, things that in themselves are distractions basically, but I've got large, long running projects. Like I guess my loss for 2020, my worst project is that I didn't make as much progress as I would have liked to on some of my larger, longer running projects.
I want to follow up. Well, thank you for that comment, first of all. But I want to follow up with something you said earlier, which is that you store all. All right, that was nice. So you said you store all your 3D printing projects in like one directory or something like that. Is that a I don't know if you can say more about that, or is it just like
it was a lie? So there's two ways that I store projects. Sometimes projects are all included into one directory. I'm pretty diligent about backups, and I'm pretty diligent about organization, and I like to organize on the file system. And so, but then if you organize on the file system, then you're stuck in one hierarchy. You can't have different types of keys. So anyway, so anything that I'm going to 3D print, whenever I open SCAD or if I download something, it goes into one folder, and that goes all the way back to 2012. So I got this huge list of things, all the Thingiverse stuff that I've downloaded and printed, and a lot of the, you know, the thing for the drain and the thing that fixed the toilet handle 5 years ago. They're all in there too. But if I have a particular project, and I'm trying to think of a good example, like the anemometer project, it will probably contain its source code and schematics and 3D models for 3D printing all in its project, which is, I don't know, 3 directories up and aside. It's kind of in the same area with all my projects, but it's not in the same folder. So, but I'm always torn as to whether, you know, should something have representation in all of the areas, software, 3D printing, whatever, or should it all be in one place? And I've recently sort of changed to all in one place. Also, whenever I do a project, I like to get the whole thing in GitHub.
Yeah.
So,
No,
and when I say, I don't mean GitHub, in Git. I have my own Git server. It's very simple to have your own Git server. It just means it's versioned, so that's the best undo in the world, and it's on another computer so that I can get it anywhere, and I can, you know, so if I have a hardware failure or something, it's protected, and I can always kind of go back in time if I want to.
nice. Okay. I was just wondering if you, if you
Did I miss the right question?
No. It was no. That was exactly no. You answered the question. I was just hoping. I had the secret hope that you were going to suggest this magic file organization strategy that I wasn't aware of that was going to fix all my my issues. And then starting with 2021, I would like practice new habits and. But no, it's thank you. It's it makes sense.
Consistency. You know, there's a tool on Windows called Everything by Void Tools. And with it, it keeps a database of all of your drives. And with it, you can just do freeform searches and it'll show you all the files that match and look for pictures or music or all this stuff. It has really, it has made it so I don't depend as much on the file system anymore, but still, I don't like to have things all over the computer. I mean, and you know, that usually starts on the desktop, right? When you start getting mountains of things on your desktop, that's a sign that you should have a place to put them, to categorize them.
Okay.
Well, certainly +1 for everything. It's Windows search is awful, but everything finds everything. It's really good. But your comments about your organizational comments, one of my struggles, and you know, we all have. Where do you keep the parts of your projects? But I write stuff up, so there are documentation issues, and I've been struggling and paying attention to this and thinking about it, and still failing as I keep my notes, which are currently in OneNote. Thanks, Phil. It's a constant struggle. You know, is there kind of a subhead for this, you know, per project for the software stuff or the Skyhook part, or, you know, the head problems that I've had about thinking about this, or do I want just a cron history of it? You know, because some of the stuff, it just, you know, this was the order that I did it. You know, in real life, you know, I started someplace and I did some stuff and I did some other stuff and some other stuff. Its grouping is not the same as its chronological history. And every time I go through a project, you know, a moderate sized project, I go through this, you know, well, how should I organize the notes on this thing? And I never come up with a good answer.
I think at some point we're going to have to go through a rundown of OneNote versus Evernote versus Notion versus whatever else is out there. And so I'll just throw that out there as a future future discussion to be had. But yeah, I think we all feel your pain.
I
Yeah,
think that's
I'm
a good topic.
Sorry.
I just said that's a good topic.
I think, yeah, when we pull Tom in too, because he's a big fan of get things done. And we've all tried organizational themes and ways to get us to do the things that we need to do. Like, I mean, I'm a pack rat. I got a million little scraps of paper around with to-do lists, and at least I know where to find them and I group them up. But that that topic of project organization, documentation organization, and then like time and task and personal project organization. Yeah, we're definitely going to hit that one in 2021.
Cool. Yeah, let's pin that.
Yeah, well, one of the things about that is, at least for me, is there's a certain, I don't know, it's a psychological pleasure about sketching or note taking in by hand. And I've never really found a good combination of digital note taking, like through Microsoft OneNote, plus keeping like, I know there are some solutions out there that I don't know. To me, they seem kind of expensive. Like you buy a special notebook, special pen, or what have you. But yeah, that would be a good topic for discussion, I think.
I'm like Phil, we could talk for weeks straight on this. I think, you know,
Call me at the end of that when you've got a solution.
yeah, right. I wish. I'll give you two really quick teasers, I guess. One is that I did get an Apple Pencil to go with my iPad, and the other is that I, on a whim, I bought a LiveScribe Smart Pen, which I had. So I had. Oh, this is probably almost 10 years ago. I had a LiveScribe pen, and I bought a newer version. This is the one that I bought, and so far this has not been working out how I hoped it would. But yeah, we should wrap that all together into the OneNote versus Evernote versus Notion thing, because at least my plan for my spring is to be doing about a third of the stuff I'm going to do for work is going to be handwritten stuff to send to students. So anyway, but yeah, that's a great addition to that.
But that's really interesting because I've got just a lot of scraps of paper that have, you know, I don't even know what's pictures and you know, ideas about how I was going to do something, and those sort of get lost. I mean, after a while they don't matter, you know, after I've actually made the thing. But a tablet or something, I do my stuff in front of a, you know, desktop, or the desktop's way over there, but you know, screen, keyboard, and mouse. And I wonder whether a little tablet or something to sketch and have those in some electronic form that, you know, I could just dump those images into, you know, OneNote or whatever I'm using. That's an
I'm with
interesting, that's
I'm
an
with
interesting
Phil
thought.
that I've tried that with tablets, usually smaller phones, but the Note 3, I think one of you had a Note 3. It had a stylus, and I tried to use all those things. Nothing really compares to getting some colored pens or to use a pencil on some graph paper. Like some ideas, I agree with Phil. Maybe it's that I was raised with a creative process that's like that, and I'm not accustomed to using the new tools. I don't know what it is, but it feels more productive.
I suspect that there is there's a certain psychological component to it that I don't know if it's the tactile sensations or whatnot, but I frequently find it to even just relaxing to jot stuff down or sketch things out in a paper notebook rather than some sort of digital format.
So do you keep a sort of a project notebook, and this is, you know, the notebook, and your stuff just accumulates, you know, append only?
Yeah, I do have some sort of composition notebook. It's a grid instead of college ruled. It's a graph paper style. And I have 3 pens that are always with that notebook. And but this does end up being part of my problem, where it's not just the notebook versus OneNote thing. It's a notebook versus all the various digital tools that I have available, because not everything conveniently shares with, I don't know. So many different apps and they don't all seem to play well together.
Yeah.
I would much prefer to use a pencil or pen and paper to sort of get my idea out and then take a photo of it, because I'm really, I used to have these great Picasso photo albums. And am I frozen? It looked like Carl was pointing.
I was pointing. You were frozen for me too.
I'm sorry. I'll try not to
No.
freak again.
No. I was pointing because I agree with you.
Yeah. But here, I just turned around and hid. I have no idea why this. Oh my God. Okay, cord management we have to talk about too.
Yeah.
But, I can't see what you can see.
Yeah.
This is the shameful pile of notes that I need to go through and organize. And I mean, here's the anemometer screens, and here's an idea for my gate.
Well,
And I used to really, I still take tons of pictures, but I don't create the online, I don't have blogs, I don't have my photo albums anymore because Google took down Picasa. So I kind of have this excellent habit that goes nowhere, just nowhere. But that's how I think it would work best for me. I don't know about you. To get it on paper and then get it online. So.
One other way to organize the paper a bit, possibly, is there's a disk binding system that you can, I mean, there's a couple of different variants of it, but basically the idea is you can get punches for them. So you punch the paper that you're using, and then you can put it in the disk so that it becomes a little notebook, and you can rearrange the pages and whatnot. At least you can then sort of capture and order the paper.
It's kind of a nice idea.
The system I usually use is called Circa from a company called Levenger, but Staples has one called Tool, I think, or Arc. Actually, Staples is Arc. There's another system called Tool, but I forget if that's Home Depot or not Home Depot, Office Depot.
I tried the Staples system. At work, I tried it.
Yeah, it's like everything else. Everything takes some level of fuss, right?
This is a good habit to have too. Every piece every piece of paper I start and every file that I start for work or for home is started at work has the date code at the beginning of the file name. So alphabetically, all the file names sort in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
And you could even, especially with everything, you could search for date ranges just in the file names. So
yeah, there's a keystroke shortcut that will insert date or date and time in OneNote, and so I've gotten pretty good about just punch that. It looks dumb, and but it's right there, and that's I agree, that's really helpful.
Oh, you need to save something for our actual segment, I suppose.
Yeah, Carl, I'm going to want to learn more about the disk bound system that you use. I used to, well, I shouldn't say I used to. I did a fair amount of I don't know, online research on those systems, and I was super tempted by them. And right now at this moment, I can't for the life of me remember what I eventually what I found that turned me off of them. But I was, for a long time, I was super tempted by them, and I ultimately did not go forward with that. But I do remember like being very, very intrigued by the whole process.
Yeah, sometimes honor it in the breach more than in the reality. I take a bunch of notes and I kind of intend to punch them and sort of sort them into things, but right now it's all living in clear clear file folders. Available at your local Japanese stationery store.
Still looks organized to me.
Well,
Do.
Yeah.
that's what I'm letting you see, I suspect.
So at work, I kind of sort of adopted this paper size because at work we had a printer driver go bad, and everyone who printed even one page, you'd get 5 or 10 pages that had this in the corner. And so by the printer, there were these massive stacks of paper. And I ended up getting, I had so much, I brought some home, and this was before the pandemic. And I just cut it into 4s on the paper cutter, and it is such a convenient size to have around.
Yeah.
But I think that, like what Phil was saying about it being psychologically good, I like lists too. I love checking a thing off a list. I'll do something and then write it on a list and then check it off because that feels good.
Yeah, that's one of my problems is so you got good apps for collecting notes, and then there's other apps that are good with to-do lists. And Evernote even saying for so long that oh no, we don't want to get into to-do lists. That's not our thing. And but I'd like to have one place to put all my stuff, And so I end up having this ends up being my problem is that I'll have one app for note taking and then another app for to-do lists, and then somehow I end up taking notes in the to-do list. They end up not getting into the note taking app, and or saving files to Google Drive instead of to my note taking and to OneNote.
I could see myself maybe using something like Confluence if you've ever used a wiki before, but that still, it'll hold tasks. It doesn't schedule them for you. So that's my problem, is that I don't, and when I did my Kickstarter, I actually put things on a calendar, but if you've got, so in your time organization, you've got to capture what you need to do, prioritize it, plan it, and execute it. And if you're just writing it down into lists and prioritizing it and executing it, you're living in a perpetual state of crisis. You need at some point to, and this is where I'm weak, you need to imagine time in the future that's allocated to completing a particular task. That's the part that I have a hard time with. And the tools don't support that very well. I mean, unless you're in notifications in your phone or something, or Outlook. So schedule a meeting with yourself.
Well, there's always org mode.
Sorry?
I was sorry. I'm not sure if this is me being facetious or not, but there's always, there are very, powerful and cryptic tools that combine all of these things and let you get really crazy with it. One of them is org mode and Emacs.
The whole bit about figuring out what you want to do, prioritizing it, and then writing it and writing it on your calendar. Just take your calendar and here's the stuff I got to do, and just put it someplace and then live by your calendar. And that makes so much sense. And I've never been able to do it for more than, a week or something.
When I owned Inland Productions, I had a desk calendar, and that was great. Like just always being, it was a little writing software when your forearms are on the paper, that kind of sucked. It was this very desk, as a matter of fact, but having that calendar present all the time. Am I frozen again?
No.
Okay, all right. That was powerful.
Yeah, I
should do that again.
There's this new feature in Microsoft Office 365, which our school has, where there's 2 new features. One, it's a Cortana feature where every day it gives you it sends to your inbox what it calls a daily briefing, which is a little annoying, but not. It's like what it thinks is important email I don't know, it's using AI to figure out like it seems like it's looking for requests that other people are making of you, like, hey, could you fill out this survey, or hey, can we schedule a meeting, or hey, blah blah blah, whatever. And then the other thing that it does is or the other feature is it looks through your calendar and it suggests time in your week when you can schedule focus time for you know, you to not be distracted by other meetings or whatever. So it will, if you agree to it, it will actually write in there, hey, I'm focused, and so people will see that you're busy at those times, and they will tend to not request a meeting with you. And I think is really interesting is, like, I'm usually super skeptical of these types of features, like new technology or AI type things. I'm usually pretty just like, I don't want it until it's proven that it's worked. And I'm also super skeptical and avoiding of adding more to my inbox, right? And both of these things were turned on without me opting into them. They were, we were all sent a message that says, hey, these features are being turned on. You can opt out of them. No problem. Whatever. Nobody's actually reading your email. It's all AI, blah, blah, blah. And I saw online a huge amount of outrage of people who are just like, how dare my employer do this? And how dare Microsoft do this? And blah, how dare they? And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to try it, whatever. And actually, I've found, even with my skepticism, that they have actually been very beneficial in my productivity, because having something that actually scheduled, hey, here's a 2-hour block of time where we're going to like not allow anybody else to like intrude on it, that has been very, very helpful, And if there's somebody from outside the organization that still requests a meeting, I can override that and book that meeting or whatever. But it has not clogged my email, and it is, so it's really surprising to me how well that has actually been helping my productivity. So anyway.
Cool. We got that too.
Yeah. So this has been really interesting. We kind of naturally segued into our open discussion type thing, which is a good way to end our meeting. You and Venus want to say something?
And
No.
actually, if we came up with good advice about note taking, or disk management or life management, whatever, now that you might get people to pay for.
Well, I think that it's worth like having like just sharing how people try things. I have opinions about all these things, some of which are probably backed up by evidence, and some of which probably aren't. But I'm also interested. Like I definitely wrote down having these discussions about note taking. We can write down disk management or file management too. But are there any other ideas for future discussions that we want to hold? I posted in Slack the idea of talking about staples for the workshop, to prime the discussion, which I'm free to expound on, or I'll be happy to expound on if we have this discussion. But to prime this discussion, I'll mention that about 3 weeks ago, I used my last contractor bag, like garbage bag, contractor grade garbage bag, And this week when I went to go do some more like throwaway, like heavy garbage sort of stuff, I realized, oh, I never replaced the bag of contractor grade garbage bags. And it occurred to me that that's a staple for my workshop that I just didn't realize. And I'm interested in what other people have. So that's a possible future discussion. But are there other future discussions that we should have? That's the actual discussion I want to have is
Uh,
what are the future discussion topics?
I think that could be a recurring topic as well as a favorite tool.
Yeah.
Could also be a recurring topic.
Okay. Cool.
The favorite tools, and that's some of what would come out of a shop tour. You know, if you take somebody around and say, oh, this is a really stupid way to do this. Don't do this. I've done this, and don't do this. And but this, man, I live by this. And you know, just walking through your own shop and coming up with, you know, this is good, this is bad. I bet, you know, that all of us have, you know, cool little things that somebody else would say, oh, that's really cool. Even the ones that you think are bad, but that there's some real meat in there, I think.
Okay.
I think we could have a discussion about, I think we could have an honest discussion that is both a retrospective and a forward-looking discussion about our feelings or opinions about the club. Good, bad, opportunities for improvement, opportunities for growth.
Okay. Retro.
Although we've had many of those, I don't know what we want to do in this forum, but we've had many of those over the years, and I'm sure many of the same topics will come up, and not entirely sure if if we want to broadcast them all, or if people would be interested.
Well, we could do it on Thursday night, and if there's juicy stuff, you know, use that as a prototype for, oh yeah, we ought to talk about this, you know, again on Tuesday.
Sure. That makes sense. All right. Is there any other thoughts that we want to have before we close out tonight?
Happy New Year. Looking forward to a new one.
Thank you, Gail. I'm actually, I'll just say that I'm interested in, I was really happy that Jim, you brought out the heart project that you did, because I don't know if this will be a success or not, but I am thinking about possible Valentine's Day projects. And
By Valentine's Day, you know, I might be able to help you out there with some hardware.
you might, yeah, no doubt.
And code.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
tables of XY coordinates for the LED addresses.
Well, and I feel like there's already something online that I could refer to. So that's good stuff. So yeah, as we're looking at, you know, the new year starting, you know, right around the corner. That's really cool that we have these things to look forward to. So I'll be interested to see what people are coming up with for the next you know, next couple months, or if they have new things that they're starting, and definitely want to hear about what people are going to be working on.
Hey, if anyone who isn't on these calls has any ideas or anything that they want to hear about, reach out to us at info@workshop88.com, or comment on the videos, because your feedback, comment. Your feedback is valuable to us.
Yeah, we do get comments, and I love getting comments, and so please continue to do that. And so I guess I'll use this opportunity then to say, please subscribe to our channel. Please like the videos, share them, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And if you're interested, please consider supporting us on Patreon. I actually got the Tesla coil pictures hosted as a Patreon exclusive early before anybody else had access to them. So there are benefits for being a Patreon supporter. And we also offer the Slack access to our Patreon supporters. So if you're interested in joining us on Slack, where we have discussions all throughout the week, love to have you on Slack. And then as a reminder, there's a deal going on through the month of January for people in the Chicago suburbs who would like to join us as members of Workshop 88 and get access to the space with the access to the tools and access to the Slack work group and all the benefits of membership. We're offering 4 months of membership for the price of 3 months. So get a month free if you join as a new member, and we'd love to have you as members of Workshop 88. So reach out to us, info@workshop88.com. And we'd love to have you as members of Workshop 88. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.
Next year.
Next year. See you all.
Here, yeah.
Oh.
That's great.